Welcome to Now You Know BC. I'm Bob Kronbauer, also known as BC Bob. And on this show, I introduce you to interesting people, places to go, things to see, things that have happened in the past. You'll hear our collective stories. This week, I'm digging into a subject that is not near and dear to many people's hearts. In fact, most people frickin' hate it. I hate it. I'm talking about garbage. This is going to be the most garbagey episode we'll ever make. It's trash, but stick around because there's some good stories in here. I promise it'll be worth your time. Did you know that the BC government came up with a plan to recruit children to help trick their parents into not littering? It's true. In the 1950s, littering was a fairly acceptable thing to do. There's actually a scene in Mad Men that sums it up. So when you were done drinking your beer in the park with your family, there's a chance that you would just and when the picnic was finally over, you might just go ahead and these days, if you see somebody throwing litter on the ground, you probably will give them the side eye and somebody will most likely say something to them, and that will most likely involve some swear words. And in BC, the transition from Mad Men to swear words started in the late 1950s. In 1958, the BC Park Service launched a bold plan to, quote, keep beautiful British Columbia green and clean. They wanted this place to be presentable for all the tourists that were going to come here and for all the residents that were driving around in their cars. This was after the war when we saw a huge uptick in people buying vehicles. The plan to keep this place green and clean revolved around the mascot that they called the garbage gobbler. This thing right here, in case you were wondering what the heck this thing is that's on our set. It was dreamed up by a dude named Len Shaw and designed by another dude named C.P. Lyons. Hundreds of these things lined the sides of the highways. They printed up 100,000 of these bags, junior garbage gobbler bags, that people were encouraged to keep in their cars. Back then, cars had all sorts of little knobs and stuff in them, so you could just hang this anywhere on your car, maybe on the little window roller-up thingy, whatever they called that thing. And so, when people went on road trips, they would be encouraged to fill up these bags and then get their parents to feed them to the garbage gobblers. Please, Dad, can we pull over and feed the garbage gobbler? This one that we have in the studio is a styrofoam replica of one of the working gobblers. On the real ones, the mouth has a hinge on it that you put your garbage in. You just open the hinge, put your garbage in there. They not only gamified the act of putting trash in its place, but they also implemented a $300 fine for littering at the time, doubling the incentive to feed the garbage gobblers, which were first made out of concrete and weighed 900 pounds and were constructed in Langford. Those turned out to be a little too heavy, so the next generation were made of fiberglass. They lasted a few years out there next to the roads, even though they had one fatal flaw. Inside of the gobblers were regular old trash cans, and the back sides were open to make it easier for crews to empty them out. Unfortunately, that also made it easier for bears and animals to get into them and empty them out from the back. Eventually, they phased these out for animal-proof garbage receptacles, but there are still a few around. I've visited 3 of them in the last year because I am the biggest fan of garbage gobblers in British Columbia. This one is near Ashcroft. This one is at a works yard in Revelstoke, and this one is hiding near another works yard near Maclees Lake on the drive up to Prince George.